And I'll hit this one, just to be sure. Okay.
Okay.
So the first thing I want to ask you is just for permission.
Okay.
And so, do you understand and give permission for this video to be recorded and uploaded to YouTube?
I do.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
So, first, just some kind of basics, and some of it I know, but
Right.
how long have you been teaching?
This is my 10th year in education.
Okay.
This is the start of my 5th year as a principal at Bondycroft Elementary. And so 10 years teaching, or 5 years teaching, 5 years in administration.
Okay. And so when you taught, what did you teach?
I taught resource math at the high school.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So from high school to elementary school.
It's a big jump, let me tell you.
Uh-huh.
Discipline and parent involvement is what you have to deal with more. It's different types of discipline. And getting kids used to the routines and rules of being in school. And more parent involvement, which I like parent involvement. I think it's very good for your students to have that. And so a lot more here at this level.
Yeah, good, good. So what led you to education? Since you didn't start right away. And
I was a vocational rehab counselor, and I was a school-to-work counselor where I worked with students with disability, trying to get them employment. And my wife is a special education teacher. And things were changing. I was having to do more paperwork than working with the students. I really like working with the students. And so I thought I'm going to go back and take a few education courses, really enjoyed it, and then really liked going to school. And so I got my master's in special education. I had my EDS, instructional leadership, and my doctorate in administration and supervision also.
Okay, great. Well, one of my questions down the line was, do you feel that your education, and you've got lots of education, do you feel that it prepared you for where you're at now?
It really did. It helped me prepare myself, working with all types of students, trying to help them achieve. With my master's in special education, I really feel like that helped me, look at all levels of student, not just the lower ones, but the higher ones, helping them get where they need to go. I'm able to help my teachers during IEP meetings and try to help them group. And when I went on to my different degrees, I think it helped me with preparing for the budgets, working with teachers, looking for different strategies, working with the community. So yes, I do feel like it helped.
Good, good. How would you, now here at Bondycroft, how would you describe your students in general? I know you can't, everyone's different, but if you could do a general description of your students.
We have about 250 students here this year. I'm in a pre-K this year, so I'm a pre-K 5 school. My students, they're 90% free and reduced. My students, great students, but economically they are at a disadvantage to most students. We are at Bondycroft Elementary, we have the highest rate of free and reduced students across the county. Now, because of that, I'm able to get extra funding to help my students. I get more Title I funds. We are a Title I school, and every school in White County is, but we get more funds based per student, and that helps my students out.
Right, right. What about diversity? Do you have, are you very diverse, would you say?
I may be 2% other, but it's probably 98% white.
Okay.
Yes.
So, do you have any ELL?
I have one student that's ELL.
Okay.
He did really great this year. He came in not knowing very much language, but our ELL teacher came in and really worked with him and did very well.
Great.
And so I'm anxious to see when he comes back to see if he lost anything or see if he may have made some gains.
Right.
So hopefully he made some gains over the summer.
So how was working with that family? Was that more difficult
It
because
was
of
difficult
the language?
because of the language barrier, but we have a great teacher, Miss Hetty, Samantha Hetty, she's our teacher, really came in with resources for me and was able to communicate with the family. And I knew their extended family, and they've been in our area for a long time, and good communication that way.
Okay, good, good. What would you say the greatest strengths of, first of your school?
First of our school, this is still a community school, and our great strength is the community itself. I can call out any parent or whatever, and they're here to help us out. Community resources. It's a great community. I called the fire department, helped them with the mulching of the playground area. They had to cut down a tree for me, called them. So a great community base. We're still a community school. And I think, schools like Woodland Park, a lot of kids come from all over the county. But this is still a community school. We're located about 15 miles east of Sparta. And so it's just, we're kind of isolated.
Yeah.
It's good.
That can be a good thing.
And it's a good thing.
Yeah. What would you consider to be the greatest strength of the system, of the White County system?
White County system. In terms of administration?
Maybe, just if that's a strength, you think?
I think it is a strength. As collectively, for the elementary principals, we can call on each other. We've got Mr. Osma, who's at Finley Elementary, that's got 12 years experience.
Right.
I've got 5 years. And then we got some brand new principals in there. And so we can all call in each other and they've been, Mr. Oswald started off here. And so he knows about my community, and so he knows what's going on here. The administration at the central office, you have Dr. Carmichael, who has been a principal here and other elementary schools also. She knows how this system works here at this school. And so I think collectively, all the experiences and their knowledge, we got a good foundation for that.
Good. Well, on the flip side of that, what would you think are the biggest challenges, both of for Bonnie Croft and then for the system?
Our biggest challenge this year is going to be helping our students achieve. We're doing a reading initiative, and so our student scores reading did not do very well. And so this year we're looking and really helping our K-3, improve their reading. And so that's something I don't feel like I've done very well in, or our system to have the resources. And so we've been looking and researching all summer long for different programs. And I think we found one. It's from McGraw-Hill. It's called Imagine It. It's where the students will be tested after 2 weeks. And say like our students in kindergarten, there'll be a ability group for 1 hour. And we'll have a program say, hey, with these students who score 0 to 20, you'll work with those. It's scripted out. And so our county, Clay County was using this program, and they have seen significant gains. So we're hoping to see some gains that will fall through and cycle throughout the years. It'll take a while to get our reading scores up, but that's something that we're going to do.
That's exciting.
It's exciting.
A focus on early childhood.
It is, right. And before you were looking more at grades 3 through 5 because those are the tested areas. But I think we're now looking for, we got to get our K through 2, get them ready, so our 3 through 5 will do better. And so that's what we're looking at right now.
Good. Already touched on this. I was going to ask about the relationship between the community and the school.
It's community based. We have every year the coal miners reunion that Dr. Carmichael started out. And it started out with, I think, with a $300 grant. And now it's a big community involvement. And the Bon Air Historical Society has taken over that. We help provide the facility, and our students do a lot of little projects at the end after TCAP, of course. But they're very involved in it, and our community really likes that we keep that coal mining spirit, and we teach our students, about their community, their history up here. And this year was the first time in several years that we did a school-wide field trip, and we did the same. It was great. K through 5. Actually, we didn't do kindergarten. It was 1 through 5. We went on a field trip to all the different coal mines that they used to have up here. And we had 3 of the tour guides come up there, 3 different buses, and we stopped at all the places that you would go on to. And my kids really enjoyed it. They were fascinated to know about the history because all their grandparents and great-grandparents were involved in this. So that's good.
Yeah, that's great. Well, what would you like to see from the community, either up here or as a larger system? What would you like to see the community, or that partnership between school and community?
One thing that we're going to have to do is working with our parents up here is help them know how to work with their students. And so we're going to invite community leaders up here to help read to our students. And then we're going to help them train our parents to know how to do the right tools, how to work with their child. Working like maybe 10, 15 minutes now reading a story with them and show them the correct way about doing it, get them excited about it. And so I think with our community leaders, having somebody from the fire department come in and read to a child, that's going to really, those kids are going to be, when a guy walks in with a fire uniform, they're going to be excited.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And so I think that's going to be important. Get them involved in their reading initiative up here.
Yeah,
so that's good.
That's great. That's great. We've kind of talked about families. How do you try to develop family partnership, family communication?
We, our parent-teacher organization is very active up here. And then we're involved in that. We let the different churches rent out our gym. They're involved in that. So we'll continue to foster those relationships. I've tried to go to some like the water department meeting a time or two up here. Just get myself involved. Be involved in the coal mining reunion. I'm involved in that also. I'm on that committee, and so things like that.
Yeah, that's great. This is just the sort of things we've been reading about in class about community partnerships and stuff. That's perfect. This is sort of redundant again because I'm skipping around, but how would you say economics? You said this is one of the highest poverty schools in White County. How do you think that affects what you all do and
how we do? Well, I think it has a big effect because most of our students up here are raised by their grandparents. I would say a large majority of it. And so most of these parents or grandparents, family members are on fixed income.
Right.
And so when we got to work with those grandparents, because it's been years that they've had a child in school, so I think it's our responsibility to help them. And so, and I think that's the reason why it's such a poor community up here, because most of those kids are being raised by extended family members.
Right. And that really changes the dynamics.
It really does.
Family. Well, that was my next question, is what changes from, of course, you've changed from high school to this area, but what have you noticed changes in family dynamics over your time?
I have, like I said, it's mostly either single parent or it is the grandparents. But they're very involved, it seems like, especially in K1 and 2 still. They're very excited. But we got to just help those parents and family members continue that as they go through.
Right.
And we got to help them to know what's important and try to give them some guidelines on how to help their child. I think that's going to be important this year.
Yeah, certainly. What do you think, and this is thinking a little bit beyond your ages that you have here, but more sort of in general for our community at large. What do you think are the greatest challenges facing rural youth today? Maybe even your own children.
Well,
growing up in a small town. Having
other outside experiences, having been able to go beyond White County. We took, we were talking about maybe Nashville or whatever. A lot of our students haven't been outside of White County.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that if we have the opportunity to take them outside of White County. There's a virtual STEM lab, I think, maybe even at Tech, I'm not sure if they have that.
Yeah.
And so if they can do a virtual field trip, even though we can't go, that'd be economically my students can see what's beyond White County.
Right.
That it's just more than a factory job. It's more than being here in White County. There's other things outside. And I think that's what's going to help my students grow, is if they realize there's beyond here. And I think if we do that, they'll be excited about education, and if they realize that education is their key to get out.
Right.
And so I think it's our responsibility to show that there's something beyond White County and give them other experiences besides here.
Yeah. Do you think your students, I know 5th grade is as high as they are here, but do they see themselves in college, or do they see themselves in careers, or...
And I think that a lot of them still see themselves doing the same thing that their parents or grandparents did.
Right.
And so I think that's what we need to do, to show them that there's other outside field, outside careers for them. And so we did a job fair here one day. We invited a lot of people from the community up here. We have beauticians, we have the fire department, we have people from the city come in, the county come in, we have pharmacists, we have a doctor, but just different. So the kids can go and say, hey, what type of schooling did you go to? What did you have to do? And so that was cool. And they have passport, so when they went, they got stamps and they've been to each little station. So that was fun. My kids enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see. Well, okay. what changes? Our class, we've talked a lot about the local, what teachers are doing, what administrators are doing, but then again, beyond that, what policies are affecting what we're all doing. So what changes would you like to see in policy?
In policy.
Either local or federal or...
I think, the evaluation system, I don't think it's where it needs to be just yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's still, we need to look, I think the evaluation system, I don't know how best to explain it. I think we need to look at different ways to evaluate our teachers to help them and give them the tools and strategies from their evaluations.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to look at that. We need to look at testing because our teacher evaluation as a whole is based on their TVAS scores.
Right.
I get my teacher effect data from the overall.
Mm-hmm.
And so you still have, your PE teachers, your special ed teachers, your music teachers still getting that. I just think that the evaluation system needs to be maybe looked at a little bit differently. I just don't know if I agree with all of it.
Yeah. If you had a chance to speak to a state or federal policymaker, what would you want them to know?
I think that one of the main things that they really need to know is to make sure that they have the experience to make these decisions. I think a lot of them are politicians and do not have an education background. I think it's important that in order to make these policies, that they need to make sure they're getting ideas from the people who are actually in the trenches, as you would say.
Right.
My teachers just got back from the 10 core training, and they said that's the best training they've had.
Good.
The state
Good.
has allowed teachers to do the training.
Good.
These teachers are still in the classroom.
Good.
And so they know how to implement the 10 core. And I think that we need more teachers, more administrators making these decisions that affect us.
Right.
Instead of just politicians.
Right. I agree. Well, sort of going from there, if we're thinking about the decisions that policymakers are making and people going into the field of education, do you feel like the teachers you're getting are prepared for, like new teachers, are they prepared for what they're facing, I guess?
It's really great to see a new teacher. I've got relatively, my fifth grade, my fourth grade, and I've got my second grade teacher there's brand new, and they're very excited about it. And it's great to see their excitement in there.
Yeah.
And they're going, they're really great about collaborating with, the veteran teachers. And some of my veteran teachers are even open to them also, because you can learn from something that's just come out. They've got brand new ideas, and so it's very good that they've got that. So I'm very excited to have new teachers here.
Good. If you could, well, and you are kind of, speak to teacher trainers at Tech, at higher ed, what would you, and you're in that position yourself, what do you think would be most important for them to...
Sitting there through the interviews, those teachers need to know about the evaluation system.
Yeah.
They need to know about each domain, because we'll ask them questions about that, and they won't know some of the answers. They need to understand the terminology that we're using, and we pull our teacher interviews from the evaluations.
Okay.
And so they need to have a good working knowledge of the evaluation system, what we're asking for lesson plans, for grouping, for summative, formative assessments. They need to have an understanding. And some of the new teachers that came through, not all, but a few, did not answer those questions as well.
Right.
And so I think if they had gone over that a little bit more with them, a class over just the evaluation procedure.
Right.
And so I think that'd be good.
Good. What about, and you also have a little extra insight into special education. How do you feel about teachers coming in, their experience with special ed? If they're not certified special ed, their regular ed certification, how do you feel about their knowledge of special ed and their preparation for working with students with special needs?
It's a big challenge for those teachers because I think, I understand it, I know one of my teachers had done maybe a practicum or had gone and observed a special ed classroom, but we're doing more inclusion now.
Right.
And so I think if those teachers had experience working with being in an inclusion classroom,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them have not had that experience, at least the ones I have
Right.
done, and don't know how to work with those. Differentiation is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the teachers even think that maybe differentiation is working just with those lower levels, but it's working with every level, how to differentiate. I was observing a classroom one time, and the higher level students got finished first. Well, they got into some mischief. And so, that teacher needed to know, more experience working, how to challenge those students also, not just those lower ones. And so,
But everybody has
everybody.
their own. Right. Good. This might be have to think about one. But if you were the superintendent of White County, what changes would you make? It's kind of a big question, but we can come back to that one if you prefer.
Well, one thing I would like to see change, and I know that we don't have a lot of control over this, is our money released to us earlier.
Mm-hmm.
We have to carry a substantial general fund at the end of school. Our money's not released several weeks afterward, but we have to write out checks for our benchmark testing, our BEP money for our teachers, and that money's not released as soon. But that's no control over us here. That's something with the federal government and state government. That's one thing I would like to see change.
Okay. We talked a little bit about teachers' preparation. What do you think? One of the things we've talked about in class is trying to recruit really highly qualified teachers in rural areas.
Right.
So, what do you think are advantages for teachers to be in an area like White County, or even specifically a school like Bonnycroft?
Well, one thing we were talking about this morning with the teacher is how we get to know our students from K through 5.
Right.
And so if a teacher is having problems in like in 5th grade with a student, she can go down and figure out what their family background, and we know. But in terms of recruiting for up here, I mean, that's something I struggle with that I want to do.
Right.
And I've got some great teachers here, but it's really hard for, most of my teachers live up here.
Okay, I was going to ask that. Are a lot of your
Most them
teachers
up here.
local?
And which is great because they know they're involved in the community.
Right.
But it's just hard to get other people to drive 30 minutes into here.
Right.
But we're very fortunate to have great teachers in this community. But in terms of recruiting, I need some help with that.
What do you do?
What do you do? I don't know what you do. I don't know.
Yeah. One of those tough things. Let's see. Thinking a little bit broader, and again, you can even think about your own children. What do you think for students? A lot of our class focused on high school age, or maybe your experience when you were at high school. What is a advantage for them to stay in this area? What would be advantages? I mean, I'm still here from here, but I chose a career that I could be here.
I guess one thing they've done this year, they're going to hire a career advisor in the system. White County's getting one, Putnam County's getting 2, and I think Cumberland County may be getting 1. And they're going to be working with those kids about careers in their area. So that's a good thing. That's very positive.
Yeah.
But in White County, our largest employer is education.
Right.
It is our school system. We are getting a lot of new industry here. They're having to go elsewhere. My oldest son, I just don't see him coming back because he's not going into education.
Right.
I hope that some of my boys do stay here. But I think maybe with this new career advisor, that they may be able to find some employment. And I know she's planning on going to the Chamber of Commerce and try to help that get that going also.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
That's neat. That's a neat initiative. Try to get Well, and then on the flip side of that, or what are the disadvantages? And you sort of touched on
There's
that.
not a lot of employment here.
Right.
Like I said, our biggest employment is the education system. And so if you're not going into education, there's, retail. We got our local Walmart, convenience stores, grocery stores, and a few factories, but not a lot.
Not a lot of options.
There's not a lot of options here.
Right. Sort of switching gear a little
Okay.
bit. Who would you consider, and you've sort of touched on this too, but who would you consider to be at risk in your school?
At risk. I guess there are 10% of our population here. Those are the students that are still struggling to read.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be my focus this year, is to help those students achieve. And we're looking at that Imagine It program by McGraw-Hill, hoping to get those kids where they need to be. So we're really going to focus in on those K through 2 students, at-risk students.
Yeah.
And we got
That's
an
great.
intervention program. This is I believe their 3rd year. Hope Brown, she's a reading specialist, and she's very involved in that. So she's going to be just teaching reading skills this year. That's her main focus. Last year we did a little bit of reading and math, but this year it's going to be focused totally on reading.
On reading. That'll be good. How is, or you can kind of describe how professional development is used to meet the needs of your teachers?
One thing that we have really done this year that I'm really excited about is that the professional development is going to be use our local resources, which in terms of our teachers.
Okay.
They're going to be presenting some of the professional development.
Yeah.
We got some great teachers here that have been very successful. We have a group of teachers from Castle that's doing the Daily 5.
Okay.
If they went training in North or South Carolina, and they come back and shared it with their teachers here.
Okay.
And they do really well with their reading scores at Castle Elementary. And so
Good.
they're sharing that with everybody. And so I think, utilizing our local resources is great.
Yeah, good. Is there anything that you would like to see more of as far as for professional development that?
I would like to see us looking at how to work with students with disabilities. I think that's very important. In White County, we have a large population of special ed students. And I don't think that we've over-identified. I just think that we just didn't work with those students as much as we could have at the beginning. And so that's why it's going to be our focus. So, helping us know and recognizing those students and giving us the resources at the beginning, I think it will prevent those referrals to special ed.
Right. I agree. There's a lot of, we're kind of being redundant, but there's a lot of outside influences that affect what's taught in schools as far as standards and testing.
Right.
How do you encourage your teachers or make curriculum relevant to your kids here?
Well, that's part of the evaluation. It has to be relevant to their daily lives. And so they bring that in. So as I observe, during a classroom, how are they making that relevant to that student at that point in time? So that's part. And that's something that, I need training on and my teachers need training on, and make sure that it becomes an interest and relevant to that student.
Right. Because your students here in Bonnycroft will have different interests and different needs than
Exactly.
children in town.
Exactly.
Right. This is sort of a bigger picture. How can teachers in here in our area prepare a child to succeed here, maybe graduate high school, but then also in a global economy?
Right.
It's just the term we use all the time.
I think that we need to make sure that they get some outside experiences. Make sure that they realize there's something going beyond, and spark their interest in something else out there. And then you do that through different projects in your classroom.
Right.
Social studies, you talk about different countries. You talk about different jobs or whatever. So you bring that in, you incorporate that into your classroom.
Yeah, certainly. What about technology?
Oh,
How do you?
we got a brand new computer lab downstairs.
Great.
And so we use that constantly. Actually, every morning a grade level goes down there for an hour and a half, and we do web-based searches, we do projects on there. And so I think, having technology, and a lot of our kids know how to get on the computer.
Okay.
But we're trying to show them how to maybe do research projects.
Right.
One of our big things in 5th grade is the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And so they get in there and they adopt a character from the Civil War and they do research. And then for our Veterans Day program, our teachers do a Civil War pageant. They get up there and they assume the role of that character and they talk about that character. And so they've done research through the technology. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a great.
Yes. I mean, it brings in social studies, it brings in reading, it brings in lots of different things in there.
Yeah. That's such a neat project. This is again maybe a thinker, but what excites you about the future of education as a
I think
field?
Every year is exciting because you're starting all over.
Mm-hmm.
You look at your mistakes, you get your data notebook together and think, well, how can I do things differently? You group your students. So every year it's a challenge to do better and to continue the great things that we're doing already. And so that's what I like about education, because every year you start all over. Mm-hmm. It's a clean slate, but you just build about what you've done and then back up and say, hey, I might have done this differently.
Right.
So I think that's good.
Good. On the other side of that, what concerns you about the future of education?
I think our test scores, and I think the people that are making the policies need to make sure that they have experience in education before they make these policies. Right. That concerns me that these politicians are making these and they do not have the background to be making these decisions.
Right.
I think they need to be more involved in a school system, have more experience here before they go out and make these. That kind of scares me.
Yeah, I think so. Is there anything else that if you would like to tell about your school?
Very excited.
Sort of a commercial, I guess, for your school.
Very excited about this year. I've already been meeting with my teachers. We're already starting to develop a plan of what we can do differently. Mm-hmm. And I'm not the type of principal to say, hey, this is what I want you to do for minute to minute. I'm asking them, what do you think? What are some things that you need to do? And I'm asking them, what are things I can do for you? Mm-hmm. I consider myself a support system here. I don't consider myself above everybody. I consider myself to help them out. So I'm trying to give them the resources. And we're talking about what we can do and to improve and continue what we're doing.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.